I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, a question that I get quite often on my YouTube channel here in the comment section, people emailing me and just generally talking to people in the street or at one of my listings. You know, they'll say, "Oh, and I know your overall philosophy is to buy and hold real estate, hold for long periods of time, enjoy the house, or buy an investment unit, put a tenant in it, and keep it." And yes, that has always been my strategy. It's something that I inherited from my dad and many of my other mentors in real estate over the last 30 years. The big reason, especially in Canada, being a Canadian real estate investor, is we have extremely high friction costs here. The property transfer tax on the way in, GST if it's new, of course the biggest flipping tax going, the capital gains tax when you sell it, real estate commissions to sell, conveyancing and notary fees, it's high. So you want to, by keeping properties longer, you spread those costs, those fixed costs, or those transaction costs, spread them out over a lot longer time. So it creates a much smaller percentage of your overall buying and selling cost. So you want to hold as long as you can. But people say, "Oh, and is there ever a good time to sell? You must sell some of your properties, or have you?" Or, you know, lots of people sell. There's lots of good reasons to sell, and absolutely there is. I've done a few blogs over the last 10 or 12 years here on my blog. And that's why I'm doing this one. It's probably time to refresh it here. There's plenty of good reasons to sell a home. I've sold many over the years, several principal residences, and then I've sold the odd investment unit. What I never do, though, is I never sell a home in hopes to take money off the sidelines, wait for a market correction, and then buy back in. Whenever I've sold, I've immediately bought. Either sold a principal residence, bought another one, or I've sold an investment home to consolidate some money to buy something else. I don't keep my money on the sidelines for very long, if at all. But lots of good reasons to sell, you know, and you know, unfortunately, some of them are usually a lot of sad circumstances. On the good side, you know, moving upsizing, getting into a bigger home, selling your one bed and moving up to a 2-bed or a townhouse, or selling your townhouse and moving into a duplex or a detached home. Or downsizing is a big one. That's my last sale of my last principal residence was a downsize. I went from a large detached home to a condo. And it was a great move for me. I didn't need that much space. I wanted to kind of simplify my life. I travel a lot, something I could lock up and go. So upsizing, downsizing, lifestyle changes, those are all good reasons to be a seller. But of course, then there's a lot, in my business, I deal with a lot of sad stories as well. You know, divorce, illness, death. Those are, you know, make up a lot of the reasons. Job loss, or disability, or job transfer to another city. Those are reasons as well why you have to sell. So there's lots of good reasons to sell that make sense. And eventually everyone is going to sell a home. Eventually I'll sell the home I'm living in and go into a retirement community. So lots of good reasons to sell. One of the other things I want to talk to you guys about here, I haven't brushed on a lot, is when most people are selling a home, not always, but they're either going up market into a bigger place or downsizing. In some cases, sure, they're hitting retirement age and they're going to sell the home and maybe go into a retirement community, retirement home, or perhaps rent. Some people do decide at the end of as they get into their later years, just to rent. But when you're buying and selling, when you're selling and then buying something else, you always want to keep your eye on both ends of the transaction. And what I mean by that, I'll give you a case in point here. I had some clients, we had a 2-bedroom condo listed for them. Let's call it priced at around $900K. And their goal was to buy a detached house on Vancouver Island, outside Nanaimo. And limited supply, and that isn't my market. I don't follow it all that much at all. But I had to, you know, make sure I was giving them good counsel on this. That home that they wanted to buy, a good starter level detached home, a rancher type home, limited supply on those homes, and you want to be keeping a pretty close tab. They have a realtor that they're working with out there. And I told them, you want to be keeping a really close eye on where that market is headed, because Interest rates, I know some of you think interest rates aren't going anywhere, but I think eventually they're going to come down, probably later this summer, maybe later this fall. What they're going from is a $850,000 condo to a $1.4 million rancher. As interest rates come down, what they're looking to buy, that detached rancher, is probably going to go up in value to a bigger percentage or a bigger dollar amount than what their older 2-bedroom condo is. And you have to be wary of that. They want to get, and my job is to get them top price for their current home. But at the same time, we don't want to overprice this home. It sits on the market. Yes, eventually interest rates and the overall market, I think as we move further into 2024, will do us a favor here. And prices will start to slowly go up, especially if interest rates start to come down. However, it doesn't do you much good if in 6 months the price of your 2-bedroom condo goes from $840 to $860, goes up $20K in the next 7 months, when the price of that detached home goes from 1.3 to 1.4. So they understood pretty quickly that, yeah, you have to be conscious of both ends of the equation here. And you want to hold out another 6 months, we might be able to get you 15 or 20K more on your condo, for sure. However, that detached home you're looking at might go up 100K. Because remember, the higher price echelons, the higher valued homes are much more influenced by interest rates. And if we get a 200 basis point drop in interest rates, that might add $25,000 to a typical 2-bed, but it might add $125,000 to a starter rancher in the interior or on Vancouver Island. So you have to be cognizant of that. The other thing I told them, and I get this all the time from clients, Owen, let's price it high. We can always reduce it and go from there. What harm does it do? Well, it doesn't do that much harm. It depends on how high we price it, first off. And we have to stay in front of a strategy like that. And it also depends on where the market's going. If the market is kind of just treading water or perhaps even going down a little bit, then overpricing, you're going to be 1 step or 2 steps behind it the whole way. If the market is on a bit of a rip here, interest rates coming down, let's say, and the market's going up, we've got a hot market, then overpricing a home by a little bit isn't that bad. Because within 30 days or 45 days, the way the market's going, you'll be you'll have it properly priced. So this is your realtor's job. But one thing I want to point out to you guys is days on market make a much bigger impact on your listing than a lot of sellers realize. And I see this played out all the time on the MLS. I'll look at a condo. One of the first things I do, and most realtors, every realtor is they're going to look at the history on that condo. Okay, it listed, looks just hit the market, 1 day on market. Let me see if that's right. Oftentimes, of course, no, it's been relisted 6, 7, 8 times. I saw one the other day, and I see these all the time. It was an interesting condo. It just got listed, but no, it had been on the market here for over a year, 2 different realtors. I went back into the history, and sure, they had tried to sell it back in early 2023. 2022, it had been on the market for another 150 days. In 2021, it had been on multiple times at various price points. When buyers and realtors see that, I can tell you that they are going to look at that home with a much more critical eye. They're going to say, this home has been an unsold here for a year, 2 years, 3 years. They see that you've had multiple realtors trying to list this, cancels, terminated, price reductions. Sometimes they'll do a price increase. Well, they'll do a price reduction to try and create an artificial bidding war. That seldom works. And then they'll bump the price back up 80K. When I see that kind of thing, and I'm looking for a condo, I'll tell you, I'm looking at that home with a very critical eye. And I have to ask myself, do I even want to go and look at this home? Sellers are, well, what I can tell there is that the seller is calling all the shots with this listing, not the realtor. They're hiring a bunch of realtors that are just following the seller's instructions on pricing, where to price it, taking it on and off the market, pricing it low to try and get a bidding war. That doesn't work, price it high. When you start to see 80, 90, 150, 200 days on market, then a cancel, then a relist 6 months later and rack up another 100 days on market. I can tell you now that buyers are looking at that and the realtor with a much more critical eye. So keep that in mind. Days on market matter. You want to, you really get one shot to do it right. Sometimes you can relist it and reduce the price, no problem. But if there's a pattern there of that, and you're racking up hundreds of days on market, you are absolutely, don't let anyone tell you anything otherwise, you are leaving money on the table with this listing, because a lot of buyers and the realtors are going to look at that and say, I don't know about this. Do I want to get involved with this seller? They're very erratic. They're all over the place. They're overpriced. They've been one step behind the market for 2 years. And most realtors and their clients will just pass on it. There's lots of other houses out there. I'll just wait. So you got to keep those things in mind. Final thing I'll just leave you with. As you guys know, every now and again I'll throw out stuff where the market's at, where I kind of see value. Well, outside of some good older stuff in the West End in these prime locations, I've been talking about this for years. I'm getting more competition. I got to start keeping this low key here, because I'm starting to find now that I was able to pick up a lot of these good units, good older concrete units in the West End over the last 3 years. I've been buying them up for investors, first-time buyers. I've noticed the last 6 months here I'm having troubles. I'm getting outbid on the last couple I've had. So I'm probably talking too much about these good older strata in the West End. Another area, though, where I see some decent value, but it's all over the road, are some junior one-beds studios, but I kind of prefer these junior one-beds. They come in around 480 square feet, 500 square feet. They're a junior one-bed because it's not essentially a studio. The bedroom area has is enclosed. They have usually some sliding glass doors or a nice paneled door that kind of separates the bedroom from the living room. But they're small units, but they at least have kind of a designated bedroom area. Those units in some newer luxury strata without parking, some have parking, but you're paying another 40, 50, 60K for the parking space in some of these newer higher end buildings. But the ones without parking, there's a few good ones out there that I think are a good value. The problem is that most of them are tenanted. They're tenant occupied, so I can't sell them to an investor, because when you dig a little deeper, it's on month to month, but they're paying $2,100 and the going rate for that unit is $26. You can't raise the rent. This is why I tell you guys, there's still a lot of guys out there that seem to think, oh no, selling a tenanted property, hey, I don't lose any rent, that's the better way to go. Wrong. You're wrong on so many counts. But hey, what do I know? I just sell hundreds of condos. A lot of these guys on my YouTube channel, they're experts on this stuff, even though they're not. But there's some good value in there. The problem is I got to find an end user for these. And you see these smaller units of 450, 470, 480, there are end users. I do sell them to first-time buyers, but it's a tougher sale because you see they buy it, and at 470 square feet, in a couple of years, they're probably going to outgrow the unit and they're going to need something bigger. So you got to sell, pay the commissions, and move up. These units are ideal for investors. That's where the sweet spot is on these. But of course, these realtors and these sellers are selling these things with tenant attached to them at a low rent. If they were vacant, I would buy more of these. But there are some decent ones out there. The prices are all over the road, though. To give you an example, there's some older strata in places like Cole Harbour, West End, studios, 430 square feet, that they're asking, let's call it $500K. Then if you go up another 100,000, let's call it to 600, 610, you can get a 2 or 3 year old luxury building with concierge, gym, incredible amenities, air conditioning, nice balcony. So, that extra 20% purchase price, 25%, gets you a far superior unit. It takes you from a 33-year-old strata that's going to have levies coming up for sure, elevators and roofs and parking membrane and all that good stuff, to a unit that's 2, 3, 4 years old, still under warranty and trouble-free for at least another decade. So it's a real minefield out there, but some of the ones that are tenanted, of course, they're leaving money on the table. I just need to get a principal residence buyer for one of these, and that's a little tougher go for these smaller units. But again, it's all over the road, but there's a few that I'm watching now that are pretty darn good value. You could pick these up in the low 600s, no parking, and these units will rent for $2,500, $2,600 all day, and pretty much worry-free for another decade. These are young strata, still under warranty. So there's some decent little plays there. They're not giving these away. But of all the areas that I see maybe a little bit of opportunity, it's in some of those in the right circumstance with the right product and right strata. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week.